It's been 8 years since Brawlhalla first graced the Steam marketplace. In 2 years, that will be a decade. It's honestly crazy to think about, but during those 8 years, Brawlhalla has gone through many changes. Most of you wouldn't even recognize the game if you saw it in its first release. I mean, Brawlhalla is still constantly changing even to this day. A new patch just dropped a couple days ago, and it had a lot of changes with it too, most of it being tested in experimental mode. And remember when I talked about Special K? They've basically implemented their own version of it into the test tech version of the game, which you can enable right now. But the point I'm trying to make is that with all the content and changes we see BMG make, there's twice as much being done behind the scenes that we don't see. Certain ideas, skins, game modes, or even legends that were being developed but never saw the light of day. You'd be surprised at how much unused content there is. So today, I'd like for you guys to meet the Brawlhalla roster that never existed. But before you do, I'd like to remind you guys that you still have a chance to collect your free Apex Keysword if you haven't already. But make sure you do it fast because there's only a few days left, and you don't want to be the only person without one. But don't worry, I got you guys covered. The first thing you need to do is make sure you head over to steelseries.com using the link in the description, and then install SteelSeries Moments. SteelSeries Moments is an application that auto-captures clips using GameSet's technology. So if you hit a cool combo, or maybe you got a double KO in 2s, you don't have to manually search for your replay and record it yourself. That can be kind of annoying, but this application can do it all for you. Once you have the application installed, double check that you're logged in, and make sure you have your game capture enabled. Then just click here and claim your code. Enter that into the Brawlhalla store, and there you go. Something that's cool is that the Apex Keysword is actually based off of a real keyboard that SteelSeries makes. And a lot of pros use it too, but now you can have one in-game for free. And like I said, there's only a couple days left, so make sure to claim it and enjoy your free Keysword. I'm sure everyone has seen this face by now, as she's been covered in many videos before this. It's because she's the most fleshed out unreleased character on this list. Stalker was the name that was unofficially given to her by the community, because some of her assets refer to her as such, but there are also files that refer to her as Hunter as well. Stalker was most likely going to be released in the same year as Ember, probably before her, since Stalker's game files were added on June 17th, 2015, and Ember was released on November 11th, 2015. Stalker also had a weapon combination that we still haven't seen yet, Lance and Guitars, which are kind of both similar in terms of how they attack. She even had her own SIGs as well, albeit one for each weapon, making that a grand total of 2 SIGs, which is significantly less compared to the standard SIGs that each legend has. Her Lance SIG vaguely resembles Vrax's down SIG. Even the effects are similar to a degree, just pink instead of green. Her Guitar SIG looks like a variation of Sentinel's down SIG, with the charging animation at the beginning. Although we never got to see an official release of Stalker, her files remained in the game until 2019. So a lot of us still had hope years after discovering her, hoping that we'd eventually see her in game. But unfortunately that never happened. The silver lining is that there were enough files for the community to mod her into the game, so we at least got to see an idea of what it would be like to play her. Brawlboy is actually a character that I've talked about before. I've even dedicated a whole video to him. But since that video, I've discovered some more interesting things that I completely missed the first time. As I said before, Brawlboy was the model for all the taunts in the shop. That is until Bodvar replaced him. My guess is that BMG decided to replace him because it made more sense for a playable character to model the taunts, and they picked Bodvar because he's the face of Brawlhalla. I mean, he's literally the game icon. Brawlboy was also the placeholder for some unreleased signatures too. You might recognize some of these. You also might see something odd. Why are there 4 different weapons for each signature kit? Well, Brawlhalla didn't always have the same weapon distribution it has today. Originally, Brawlhalla only had 4 weapons: sword, lance, hammer, and blasters. And it was going to stay that way. Every legend had all 4 of these weapons, and 1 signature for each. This means that if your opponent dropped a weapon, you can pick up the exact same weapon they dropped. Imagine how crazy that would be if that was still in the game. Now everything I mentioned about him so far is basically what I've talked about in the old video, but what I've learned is that BMG actually had bigger plans for Brawlboy, even if he was eventually going to end up as a placeholder. Way back before Legends existed, Brawlhalla had plans to allow characters create their own custom characters, and if you've been here on this channel for a while, I've also made a separate video about this too. But what I didn't know is that this was actually the original plan for Brawlhalla, and here's proof. They had a costume editor where you can change your character's appearance, and you can even see Brawlboy in the corner, and also his silhouette. I can even show you some example costumes they had made. Something that's kind of funny is that it looks like at the time they just used Brawlboy for all the costumes. That kind of shows you how early in development they were, but you'll see. First you have Default, Anglo, Astro, Cyber with helmet, Cyber with visor, Dino, Hunter, but there's only a female version, Knight, Mariachi, Mech, Monk, Ninja, which is genderless, Pirate, Samurai, Space, Steam, and Valkyrie, which as you know today is Orion. I kinda wish they kept the Dino costume for Nash. I know he already has one, but something about this makeshift version of it looks really cool to me. You might have noticed that when I talked about Brawlboy, I mentioned that he modeled some of the unreleased animations. Well, that's because the default legend did the other half. Unlike Brawlboy, the default legend never had any other roles than solely to be a placeholder for animations. This is because he was actually created to replace Brawlboy. That's right, this is the character who killed Brawlboy, okay? Alright, maybe that was a bit too much. But yes, he did replace him. He's in the game right now. Well, technically Brawlboy is too, but only in the game files. But you can see the default legend in game. He's the silhouette for the random character, which also used to be Brawlboy too. What makes default legend the true placeholder over Brawlboy is that if you were to mess with one of the legends in your game files right now, you might actually see this character. That's because if for some reason a certain part of a character fails to load, the default legend takes their place. So if you've ever seen this character on your screen or maybe in Exoop's video, you know why. Fun fact, the gem on their forehead changes depending on the expression. For example, blue is neutral, red is angry or taking damage, and black is knocked out. Now you're not gonna believe what the test legend does. Guess what? He's also a placeholder legend. But there is actually a difference. The test legend is only used for characters that are currently in development. So in a way, if you think about it, the test legend helps the devs visualize how a character's animations will work, and then it gets passed on to the default legend who kinda just, I guess, wears their skin in a way. Does that make the default legend a skinwalker? Maybe I'm thinking about it too much. The only time we were able to really see the test bot in action, or at least from what I've seen, was during the development of Core when he was showcased at PAX East in 2016. Maybe he's been shown in dev streams after then, but this was the only footage I can find. A cool use for him though would be like a dummy in training mode, but not in the sense that you're using him as a punching bag, but more so a helper. Maybe the bot could help you somehow practice twos combos, or something like that, I don't know. Hopefully online training mode gets added so that doesn't have to happen, but maybe if your friends aren't online to help you, the test legend could. Gadget is an interesting legend. She was originally planned to be one of the first 4 characters released in the game, but she ended up being replaced by Lord Vrax. You can tell that her design was taken from one of the costumes that was scrapped in the custom character idea. It was based off of the mech suit costume. She also had a second design that changed her hair. A lot of people think she was later repurposed into Ada, although we don't really have any proof. Other than the pink hair, that is. Gadget was only playable at PAX East 2014, as you can see in some of these clips. She didn't have any of her own unique SIGs, but she did have some cool weapon skins. Last but not least, we have Gabe. Gabe's legend model is based off of Jonathan Gabriel, a protagonist from the Penny Arcade webcomic. Gabe was planned to be playable at PAX East 2014, because the creators of PAX also created the Penny Arcade comic, which as I said before is where Gabe is from. Gabe was also created before unique SIGs existed, so he doesn't have any. It didn't really seem like Gabe was meant to be an actual character, more of an Easter egg, but unfortunately we'll never really know as he got scrapped. And I can't find any footage of him either. Anyways, that's it for this video. Comment down below what unreleased legend was your favorite. There's actually a lot that I still haven't covered, like unreleased weapons, game modes, even ranked stuff, so let me know if you guys want to see a part 2. But if not, I'll leave the wiki page so you guys can look at all the stuff down below. As always, leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to join the Discord if you want to hang out with cool people or stay up to date on when new streams or videos get released. Also, if you like my content and you want to support the channel, link to the Patreon will be in the description. I hope you guys have a good day. Peace.